We are good to go. Welcome everyone to the first Agricultural Advisory Committee. I'm glad everyone could join us today. For those of you that are new, we are live streaming and recording it, and it will be posted to our Grey County channel at a later date. My name is Heather Morrison. I am the clerk for Grey County, and so I will call the meeting to order. And I think the first thing we can do is do sort of a introduction roundtable, just so that everyone gets to know who everyone else is. So because I can see everyone, I'll sort of call out names, and if you want to just provide a brief introduction of yourself, that would be great, and then we'll get into the elections. John DeJean, welcome.
Hi, how's everybody? Yeah, John DeYoung. I prefer DeYoung, but that's fine.
Hey, sorry.
No, it's all right. Been a resident of Grey County for quite a while. Moved here in '81. Dad bought a dairy farm just outside of Dundalk. Been in the ag business for, I would say about the last 30 years, 30 some years, time goes fast. Currently working in the town of Durham on the ag site. My wife, she taught, just retired from teaching, and taught at the Holstein Egremont School for the last 20 some years. So,
welcome. Savannah.
Hi everyone, I'm Savannah, the Director of Economic Development, Tourism and Culture here for Grey County. It's within my department that we have Philly Markowitz, and she is our Economic Development Officer who's very focused, actually completely focused on local agri-food in Grey County. So I'm here on behalf of her today, but she will be joining you at the next meeting and going forward.
Councillor Woodbury.
Good afternoon, everyone. John Woodbury, Mayor of Southgate and on County Council, retired Toronto firefighter, and I moved up here, I guess, near the same time as you, John. I moved up here in '83 to raise a family, so very involved in the area, and look forward to being able to help out with the agriculture and get things straight from a group of us instead of off track on some idea. So really looking forward to this.
Thanks, John. Scott.
Thank you. I'm Scott Taylor. I'm a planner with the county, and in the planning department, we do lots of things that interact with the farm sector, and we certainly value the input we get across the county. I grew up on farms, but full disclosure, I live in the city of Owen Sound now. But I'm excited to be here chatting with you all today.
Thank you. Councillor Keaveney.
Thank you, Heather, and equally happy to be here. I think this committee is really exciting. I've been looking forward to it. I'm a lifelong resident of Meaford, grew up on a dairy and orchard farm, and now deputy mayor for the municipality and also a business owner for over 40 years. So yeah, just looking forward to getting to know everyone and moving forward with the work of this group.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
Afternoon, everyone. I'm equally happy to be here. Very excited that this is our first meeting. I am a Grey County councillor. I am mayor of West Grey. My husband and I have 50 acres. We have horses and show horses and a few chickens that have just started to lay eggs. And we have been here since 2006. Thank you.
Thank you. Kim.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kim Wingrove. I'm the Grey County Chief Administrative Officer. Grew up on a dairy farm in Wellington County.
Thank you. Councillor Soever.
Yes, hi, I'm Lars Soever. I'm mayor of town of the Blue Mountains before being elected last term, and I was mining executive. So what they say is if it can't be mined, it has to be grown. So I've always had an interest in farming in the agriculture in this area. We've had a family cottage since I was a baby. So I've been coming up here for 60 years, and I've seen the transformation of the apple industry from the historic big trees to now the high density orchards and all of the change that comes with that. And also how agriculture interacts with development, and that's a huge issue. I think, especially here in the town of Blue Mountains, but throughout Grey County as we grow. And that's why I'm happy to be on this Agriculture Advisory Committee, because I think, you know, the farmers do need a strong voice as development starts to encroach in our area, to make sure that we preserve our agricultural heritage and the farming, which adds so much to our community, not only in terms of the products that you produce, but also in terms of agritourism and food. Like, we're starting to develop an apple cider trail almost, with all these cideries popping up. And I think it's very exciting, and certainly the agricultural heritage is very important to preserve. And I'm happy to be here and look forward to working with this group.
Thank you. Lori.
My name is Lori Smith, and I grew up in Grey County. I grew up on a dairy farm, as well as many of you have. My husband and I have a cow-calf operation. I have been working here at Grey Ag Services since 2005. We are a resource center for farmers. We also coordinate Grey Bruce Farmers Week as part of that. And right now we're ramping up to create the first ever fully virtual Grey Bruce Farmers Week, and are delighted that basically we're going on the world stage with this one, because we have interest from across Canada. And it sounds like from the UK and New Zealand as well, where two of our speakers are from. I'm delighted that you are shedding the spotlight on the farmers of Grey County. It's a great thing to do, and we're happy to be a part of that. And I look forward to taking some of your ideas back to the producers that we deal with on a daily basis and get their input as well.
Thank you. Amy.
Hi, my name is Amy Kitchen, and we have a certified organic vegetable farm close to Walters Falls. And we raise chickens on pasture, pasture-raised pork, and I grow cut flowers. We also have a farm store on our farm, Side Road Farm Store. And I'm involved with Eat Local Grey Bruce, the food delivery service out of Owen Sound. I'm current president on the board of directors there. And yeah, I like to get involved in this kind of stuff. It sort of keeps me interested in things beyond the farm, so I'm happy to be here.
Great, welcome.
Thanks.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. My name is RJ Taylor. Just like many of you, I grew up on a farm here in Grey County, but not the same type of farm. It was a fish farm that my parents started in the 90s, just outside of Hanover. Fast forward about 25 years or so, my parents are retired, and now it's my sister and I running the business. So we raise rainbow trout, Arctic char, and coho salmon at 4 different farms between Hanover and Chatsworth. And then thanks to COVID, we opened our own processing plant in the spring, and we deliver fish, our fish, and then fish from a few other producers all throughout southwestern Ontario under the brand of Spring Hills Fish. So pretty honored to be at this table with you guys. Lots of accomplishments here and lots of experience. So I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you. Brenda.
Hello, everyone. Sorry for being late. Eye appointments take a lot longer than I remember them taking. Because I need
No
more
worries.
tables now. My name is Brenda Schrey. I am an organic vegetable farmer as well as organic sheep, and I am the current president for the National Farmers Union for Grey County. I'm really pleased to see that there's going to be an agricultural advisory committee for Grey County, as there are quite a lot of farmers out here, and I hope that I can represent not just, you know, the needs of NFU, but also just whoever I know of, and all the different ways of farming that actually happen in this county, because it's a really very diverse group, both in types of operation and in size.
Welcome. Hiba.
Hello. My name is Hiba Hussain. I'm a planner with the planning department at the county. I'm here in the capacity to present on the climate change action plan today, and just to speak to some of the agricultural related work that we're going to be talking to in the plan. So I'm here to present on some of that work, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Katrina?
Well, I certainly can introduce if you like, but I was under the impression I was just here to help coordinate the meeting.
That's
and
fine.
Not really participating.
So Katrina is running our Zoom show today. And
yes.
Tara Warder is our deputy clerk. You will have heard from her, and she is in the background taking the minutes for today. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with Zoom. We're pretty informal, so if you have a question, feel free to type it in the chat, raise your hand, and between myself, Tara, and whoever is elected chair, we'll ensure that we get to all of the questions or comments that happen throughout the different meetings. So with that being said, we do need to elect a chair and a vice chair for this committee. They will be the voting members of the committee. So between our public advisory committee members and our county council members, will be chosen a chair and vice chair. So with that, I will open up the floor for anyone who wishes to nominate a member to stand as chair. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Clerk Morrison. I would like to nominate John DeYoung. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Woodbury. Thank you. Are there any further nominations for chair of the Agricultural Advisory Committee? Can I have a mover, please, to close nominations?
Also move.
Thank you, Councillor Soever. John, are you interested in becoming the chair of the Agricultural Advisory Committee?
Well, I'll certainly try my best. So yeah, that's great.
Great. We're happy to help out. So don't.
Good.
We'll walk you through it. Okay, perfect. So John will be the chair of the committee. I am now looking for nominations for vice chair.
I nominate Christine Robinson.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Keaveney. Thank you. Do I have any other nominations for vice chair? Can I have someone close nominations, please? Lori, thank you. Councillor Robinson, will you accept the vice chair?
Yes, and thank you one and all. I very much appreciate that.
All right, excellent. So we have a chair and a vice chair. Mr. Chair, I will turn the meeting over to you, but feel free to reach out and ask any questions as we go along.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I guess I've got the agenda right in front of me. Move on to the declaration of interest.
If I can, maybe I can help you out. We didn't get a chance to prep you, and going forward, we'll make sure that we have a chance to go through the agenda with you ahead of the meeting. So at this time, if anybody had an interest, financial or otherwise, in any of the matters that they felt were going to be discussed today, it's the practice that you advise that you do have that interest and that you probably wouldn't be voting on something that came forward. Given what's on our agenda today, I feel it's probably unlikely that anyone has an interest, but should that come to your attention somewhere through the meeting, you think, oh, I maybe have an issue here, by all means, at any time you can declare that that's the case and step away from the table. So that's all that needs to happen there.
All right. Task force mandate and terms of reference.
So I'm going to take that, and I'm actually going to ask Tara. She's going to share her screen so that everyone has terms of reference in front. These were adopted by Grey County Council earlier this year, and they outline the goals and the processes for making recommendations to Grey County Council from this advisory committee. Once we get through a few meetings, you're going to hear from Savannah and Scott today about a work plan, so that if we get down the road a little bit and you think, oh, these need to be maybe tweaked just a little bit, by all means, this committee can discuss those and put that forward as a recommendation that would then go to Grey County Council for its consideration. It's really about strengthening the agricultural sector, information sharing, advocacy, education, ongoing consultation with the various sectors within the agricultural community and identifying initiatives and projects. And you'll hear some of those that are actually ongoing already through some different departments within the county on areas, food to table, official plan policies, those kinds of things. So those are the terms of reference. And I just wanted to provide a general overview of those. And if there are any questions, by all means, please ask. And as I said, as we go along, if they need to be shifted or tweaked, we can certainly work through that process.
Heather, if I might too, we're a small group here, and I think we can probably work informally as well to people if someone has something to say, to go through the chair to ask John if they can speak. Sometimes we can't all see everyone at the same time. You're all working off of different devices, but when you look at your participants list at the bottom, there is a raise hand feature there too. And so if you want to be recognized, that's another way to draw attention to that, and the clerk will be watching that as well. And so if John doesn't see you, the clerk will let him know that someone's got their hand up. Okay.
Excellent. All righty. Work plan development. What was planned for that?
Scott and I are going to take you through a presentation just to talk about some of the policies that have been adopted at this point and some of the projects that have been ongoing over the last couple of years and what's on the docket at this very moment, to give you some background, so that way you can help us fill in if there's any gaps, if there's something we're missing, or something that you think needs more attention towards that work plan. So Scott is going to share his screen and start with the policy side of things.
Okay, great. Thanks, Savannah. Can everyone see the PowerPoint screen there now?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to, as Savannah said, take you through a bit of what's happened in planning in the past few years. You'll hear from Hiba later on, specifically with respect to the Climate Change Action Plan. But I wanted to take you through a bit of the planning framework, and then I'm going to turn it over to Savannah to present some of the excellent work that she and her team have been working on in that regard. So some of you may have heard over the past couple of years of a project called Recolor Gray. And Recolor Gray was the branded name for our new county official plan in this regard. And we went through quite an extensive consultation project to try to work with all sectors, whether they be residential or agricultural or industrial or other, with respect to the county's official plan. And I know a number of you were involved in providing feedback, and we do thank you for that. For those of you that maybe are hearing about this for the first time, I'll just give you a real quick rundown. The county's official plan is a policy document that tries to look 20 years into the future to determine how our county is going to grow and sort of the policy aspirations moving forward. So it's a little different than a zoning bylaw where you're getting into very specific uses and setbacks on a property. The official plan is a little bit more aspirational and provides some broader policy guidance in that regard. One of the things we knew going into the official plan was that agricultural and the food sectors are some of our key sectors in Grey County. And we know that from a financial perspective, from an environmental perspective, farmers are key to supporting our county, both in terms of the food we eat, of course, and in terms of our economic livelihood moving forward. So we developed 5 main themes to the official plan, and the first was called Cultivate Grey. And that really focused on some of those areas outside of our towns and villages and what we wanted to see there over the coming 20 years. Sorry, I'm just dealing with a few different screens here. So as I said, we're looking at our agricultural lands, our special agricultural lands, and for those that might be unfamiliar, the special agriculture is largely the areas in the municipality of Meaford and Town of Blue Mountains, where we have our apple sector and now increasingly so also our wine and grape sectors as well as some of our rural lands. And our rural lands are still primarily farmed as well, but they might not be quite the same level of soil class that we have in some other areas of our county. And we know from working with the previous plan for a number of years, there were some changes that needed to be made. One of the things we were hearing from the farm sector was that if you wanted to open a business on your farm or diversify your farm operation, it was too onerous and there was too many roadblocks and red tape in the way of having sort of a diversified income on your farm there. Another thing, excuse me, we were hearing a lot about was farm consolidation. And for those that were buying up additional farms, they needed some more clear guidance on how one might go about severing that surplus farmhouse off the property. Things like minimum distance separation between livestock operations and neighboring dwellings, food system planning, and agritourism were all different topics that we wanted to address in the official plan going forward. And so we came up alongside partners in the community and with the province in terms of a whole list of permitted uses and categories for types of uses that could be on farms. And I realize on your screen, this is probably incredibly small, but basically there's three broad categories. One is the agricultural use itself, and that's primarily the production. So whether you're into cash crop, whether you're into organic farming, local food, livestock, these are the types of uses that would be permitted as a primary agricultural use. In those uses, the county places absolutely no limitation on the size. So we're certainly not going to tell you, how many acres you can till or how many of any specific type of livestock you can have on your farm. There's certain provincial guidance on those documents, including nutrient management legislation that might guide some of that, but that's not the county's mandate in terms of making any judgments there. The second category is your agricultural related uses. So these might be things like grain drying operations. They could even get into farm gate sales. So if you have a little a stand or business on your farm selling produce or meat or what have you, even into things that support the agricultural sector like abattoirs. And generally speaking, these are permitted across the agricultural area. Similar to the agricultural uses, we're not looking to place any size limitations on these uses. And I will say that this is a bit of a departure from previous plans across the county, where in some cases there were limitations to these uses. And in some cases, farmers and farm businesses were having to go through, unfortunately, lengthy planning processes in order to expand some of those operations. So we've tried to remove a lot of the barriers there. And the third category of use is what's called an on-farm diversified use. And so these might be things like home occupations. So let's just say out of the farmhouse on the property, you want to have a side business, whether it be someone doing some accounting on the side or a small workshop. We have things particularly across the south of our county where we have lots of woodworking shops or small scale manufacturing or metalwork shops. Could even be into agritourism, so things like pick your own or hay mazes or maybe even a bed and breakfast on the farm. So there are plenty of opportunities across the county for these on-farm diversified uses. Based on guidance we get from the province, there are limitations on these uses in terms of size limitations, just so that in some cases the businesses don't overtake the primary use of the property, which is the farm, and in other cases so that they don't take too much land out of agricultural production in that regard. So with respect to some of the details here, we also wanted to provide a little bit more flexibility on farm sizes across the county. The golden standard across the province had traditionally always been, you look at 40 hectares or approximately 100 acres as your farm size. And certainly for some of our operations, this is a very suitable size. But we know that with changes in technology and changes in growing techniques, there needed to be some flexibility here, and particularly we wanted flexibility whereby, again, you didn't have to go through a lengthy process, a planning process, if you were looking at establishing a smaller farm. And as Councillor Severance pointed out, we've seen changes across various agricultural sectors in this regard, and one of the most notable is the apple industry. And certainly what we're seeing with some of the high intensity plantings in that regard is quite different than some of the orchard production we saw, say, 25 years ago. So we've put in some criteria with respect to farm sizes that should help provide some of this flexibility. And one of the hopes, and certainly no disrespect to anyone on the call today, is that we can encourage more and more young people to get into farming. And having some of these smaller farm sizes might help some younger people, especially those with limited financial means, maybe coming out of school, get into farming, especially where they weren't in the ability to or in the position to take over an existing family farm. One of the other changes in this regard is looking at the severances of egg-related uses. So just for your refresher, those egg-related uses are the grain drying operations or the abattoirs. And one of the things we were hearing from farmers is that, where you had an on-farm abattoir and it got successful, in some cases there was a desire to separate it from the farm for a variety of reasons. Some cases they were selling the farm business and operating it independently of the farm. And in other cases, it actually came down to insurance reasons, and they wanted the business, so to speak, to be slightly separate from the farm itself, and it would be easier to do so if they were on separate properties. So we do have some criteria in that regard, and again, it's a simplified process from what used to be done before. We also looked at some changes to the minimum distance separation formula. And for those that might be unfamiliar, this is a provincial formula that looks at the separation distance between livestock uses, so whether it be the barn itself or the manure storage facility, to neighboring non-farm uses. So that could be things like a neighboring residential dwelling, or it might be something like a rural church or school across the countryside. So we tweaked some of the provisions there to try to make sure that we were providing protection for farmers such that we weren't getting into complaint scenarios where you have a house across from a livestock operation, but B, that we were also sort of walking the talk and making sure that if you wanted to put in one of these on-farm businesses, that you weren't being heavily burdened from a distance separation standpoint, that you couldn't get that business on your farm. And then there was also just some tweaks and clarification with respect to various other more minor matters related to the province's formula in this regard. We've clarified some of the severance policies around what would happen if you wanted to separate part of your farm if part of it was in the agricultural designation or another part was in rural, or also for those farms that might straddle a settlement area. So maybe you have part of your operation that's in a hamlet across the county and the other part is agricultural. So there were some issues there that we were running into. So we've tried to clarify that in that regard. And again, just simplify it while still making sure that we have those protections for farms and livestock operations across the county. Within the rural designation, there are some additional uses permitted. And so these are the lands that might not be prime agricultural lands. So maybe there is a little bit more opportunity if someone wanted to put in, say, a small scale transport terminal, maybe something like a contractor's yard. One of the other newer ideas that we were exploring is the idea of an agriminium. And for those that might not have heard of this, we've had a few people inquire over the years of sort of a cooperative approach to farm and home ownership. So maybe you have a 200-acre farm and 4 families are looking to set up a joint operation there. They want the ability to put multiple houses on the property and co-own the property in that regard. So we've got some slightly more flexibility in the policies in that regard and trying to encourage that. And then for some of our lands that aren't as agriculturally productive, we wanted to look at some agritourism type uses that might better help connect some of the visitors to Gray and even some of the people that live in Gray but maybe don't live on farms to the agricultural sector. So it could be everything from, as I said, sort of the pick your own places to sort of experiential vacation stays in or adjacent to farms. And we are finding across Gray County and across the province that more and more so large portions of our population don't have that direct connection to farming and the understanding about farming that we had maybe 1, 2, or 3 generations ago in that regard. I promise you I'm almost done here. There was just a few other planning matters that we were tweaking in this regard and trying to work alongside Savannah and Philly and their team to make sure that our economic development goals were aligning with our planning goals. And you'll hear a little bit more about this in just a second, but one of the things was making sure that we were planning for the entire food system. So I think in the past, the county had been criticized, and rightfully so, for simply protecting farmland and not considering all the other elements of what it took in terms of the agri-food system to get food from primary production to value-added facilities to the market. So we wanted to make sure we were looking at that entire system. Another area that we've seen conflict in the past is Gray County is well known for some of our farmland, but we also happen to be very well known for our sand and gravel resources across the county. So what does it look like when you've got a piece of productive farmland and someone's looking to establish a gravel pit on that piece of farmland? And the province provides us some guidance, but we've implemented some new policies around agricultural impact assessments to make sure that if we do temporarily lose this farmland for a period of 10, 20, 30 years to gravel extraction, that we have an idea of how it's going to be rehabilitated and hopefully brought back online to farming in the future. And in some cases, it might be brought back into crop production if the pit was above the water table. And in other cases, it might become a man-made lake, and maybe there's opportunities for aquaculture in that regard if we are looking at that down the road. Finally, one of the other mandates the county planning department has is managing our county forest management bylaw across the county. And some of you may know this bylaw by its former name, which was the tree cutting bylaw. And just to give you some background, this bylaw doesn't get down into the nitty gritty of individual trees. So if you have a large tree in your front yard and you want to cut it down, it's not the county you're talking to. This bylaw looks at larger woodlots and forests in that regard. And we do find that this bylaw does have connection to agriculture, because in some cases, especially a number of years ago when commodity prices started to shoot up, we were seeing more and more requests to remove entire woodlots or large portions of woodlots with respect to clearing land for agriculture. So we are looking at updates to this bylaw in the new year, and we would love the input from this committee. And hopefully if each of you could go out and talk to your neighbors as well and make them aware of this process so that we do get that balance and we get the farm sector's input in this regard to make sure that the bylaw provides appropriate protections while not placing any undue impact on farmers in that regard. And in that vein, one of the other smaller elements that the county plan department is involved with is looking at the coyote compensation claim process. And so this is where we do have a livestock kill, and in some cases there's the ability to have the coyotes removed after that and the compensation claim. It is a bit of an onerous process at this stage. And so we want to work with our member municipalities in the new year and again, the farm sector to see if we can trim the fat a little bit in terms of making this process a little bit more easier for farmers and trappers to access in that regard. So with that, I'll turn it over to Savannah for her portions.
Excellent. Thank you, Scott. We thought it was really important to start with the policy side of things because it was through the work with our planning department that really enables Philly to be able to do her work in economic development, making sure that we have the right policies in place to be able to actually take action. And we're very fortunate in Grey County to have a great relationship with our planning staff. We are literally neighbors physically in our building, and we work together daily. And that's really important because without the proper planning and proper economic development, we lose that piece of the chain. So this list is provided from Philly, and this has really been the lion's share of what she has been working on in our department over the last several years and is getting ready to work on as we move forward. So as I mentioned, she'll be with you for the future meetings, but we wanted to make sure that you knew some of these items. And it all started with the AgriFood strategic plan in 2017. And Philly had been doing work in local agri-food for a couple of years before that. But it was really at that point where we realized that focusing just on local food without considering the agriculture side of it, we were missing a big piece of the puzzle. So it was in 2017 that we pulled those two items together to have the AgriFood strategic plan. And I'm sure that all of you have seen that. I know many of your faces are very familiar who were part of those consultations and part of that work, but we can make sure that we send that to you as well so that you do have that as some background. And that's really been the basis for her work over the last couple of years. Our Ag 4.0 conference, we've had 3 successful years and we were getting ready for our 4th, but COVID came, so we will be looking at probably 2022 before we reintroduce that, and looking for some more partnerships with our school board, especially the agriculture program, and rejigging the time frame. We had always hosted in November to this point, and really trying to pull together those conversations from agriculture and technology, but realizing that having the students involved was a really meaningful opportunity. So we'd like to shift that to the spring instead of the fall. The AgriFood asset map, this was one of the first priorities that came out of the AgriFood strategy. And that's the picture of it right on the very bottom of this slide here. But that was a really important exercise to start to realize what our food system really truly looked like in Grey County and how everything interacted together. And that site is still live, continues to be updated as we go. And it's helped us to actually get to where we're starting now with the Connect On and the Greater Golden Horseshoe Farming Alliance that we've been working with kind of off the side of our desk for the last couple of years, but now we have an opportunity in 2021 to build a much stronger connection with them and enhance our reach. The Farmers Market Networking in 2018, that was also something that Philly organized because we, again, understand the importance of that actual access to the food and telling those stories. And that's really where Made in Grey, the brand, was born out of, trying to wrap around that story of where our food actually comes from and talking about the production that we have here and talking about the opportunities and what the business community looks like and how it's changing. And all of those pieces started to work together, and it's through that networking and through that conversation. And that's why this work is really done through economic development, because that's where the focus is. Our job is to listen and to understand and to take action. So that is why having one person completely dedicated to this has been really important for us. And we don't see that changing at all in the future. It was also a really good partnership opportunity with AgriFood BRNE, and we partnered with our neighbors in Simcoe and Bruce counties. It was a 3-year work plan developed out of a 2-year research project, and I'm pretty sure that many of you also partook in that survey work. But that was a couple of hours per business where Philly would go out and spend that time having the conversations and learning exactly what it is that's working and what's not working in the agri-food community, so that we could bring that information back and actually send it back to the province and say, this is what we're hearing directly from our businesses, and here's what we think we need to do. And by working with our neighbors, it made so much more sense because we're sharing a lot of the same challenges, but we're also sharing a lot of the same opportunities. And one of the ideas that came through that was talking more about abattoirs. And for a long time, it ebbs and flows, where there is talk about abattoirs, then it seems to go away, but that need never does go away. And now all of a sudden in the last year, the province is starting to talk about abattoirs again. We're starting to see more interest around here. And Philly is currently working with 3 different organizations, and also partnered again with Bruce and Simcoe County to have those discussions and keep working with the province to support those inquiries that are coming through our doors.
Savannah,
Yeah.
If I can, just for everybody's, sometimes you don't know our acronyms, but BRNE stands for Business Retention and Expansion. So
Yes.
there's kind of two sides to the coin. One is investment attraction, where you're trying to get people to put, grow their business and put money into something brand new. Retention and expansion is paying attention to the things that are already there and helping and making sure that they're not facing roadblocks that prevent them from making their businesses more successful.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kim. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
Yes. And I should note on that, in our office, we always hear about attraction, but for us, retention is priority. If we are not doing everything we can to support the businesses that we have here today, it really hinders our ability to attract in the future. Because if a business is looking to come to the area, they're not going to call economic development first. They're going to call the business who is within their realm to find out, what is it really like to have a business in Grey County? What is it really like to deal with the policies, and what's the environment and ecosystem like? So it's not us that they're reaching out to first, it's you that will get that first phone call. So if we are not paying attention to you first, we've really missed the mark. And it's important that we focus on that retention side before we go after the attraction. So even though it always is attraction or retention, it's the retention side for us that is number one. And that's part of why the Made in Grey brand became such an important component. And we were just launching, and it was this beautiful launch into the marketplace at the Royal Winter Fair and through the farmers markets that we have across the county, and getting ready for the Gather campaign that I know our warden is so excited about. And then 2020 was not the year to gather. So we're hoping 2021 at some point might be the year to refresh that. But that work is currently sitting on a shelf, not going anywhere, because we know that it is important and we want to bring that right back to the fore. And again, celebrating and telling that story about these products and these everything about our agri-food made here right in Grey County. The Land Seeker and Landowner Networking, that was a really interesting and really good networking event that was hosted last year. And that again came out of the agri-food strategy, where, very similar to what Scott was talking about, we were hearing a lot from people saying, I can't find the proper piece of land, and owners saying, I don't need all this land. I have some spare access. And if I could help out a new farmer get into something, then I'm going to be able to do it. But no one had any idea how to connect, or where to connect, or where to start. So it was a matchmaking network that Philly started, and again will continue. Was put on hold for 2020 because of COVID, but we anticipate that will come back as well. Mentioned just for a second there the Royal Winter Fair, but that was a huge undertaking, again in partnership with our neighbors in Simcoe County, to have the booth there for the full length of the event and showcasing our local product, bringing our businesses with us, because it's not enough for just us in economic development or from Grey County to talk about our businesses. It really hammers home just how amazing our product is when that actual business is there with us at the fair. So that was a wonderful opportunity. And again, the hope is to go back in the future. We had full plans of 2020 and that also got scrapped. The Agritourism Experience Development Workshop, that is working with RTO 7 and continuing those partnerships. We're also seeing a transition in our own department, where we are building tourism more into economic development and putting a real focus on the investment side of tourism. So that will very much come through that product development and experiential development piece. So we'll have a lot more to come in 2021 as Philly and Allison start to work together on that specifically. And I know you all received the AgriFood newsletter, the producer profiles that we do through Made in Grey, infographics and banners, just making sure we get the information out there about what does the ecosystem really look like here in the county. And that's helping us take those next steps towards the Connect On asset mapping with Bruce County in 2021, and much more of Southwestern Ontario, right over to the Golden Horseshoe. And then again, looking at that abattoir development with both our neighbors as that opportunity comes back to the fore. So I know I cannot do this justice like Philly would do, because this is her bread and butter. But we didn't want to lose the opportunity to share this with you in your very first meeting while we talk about work plans and where things are going. So that is a lot of information to toss at you and not a lot of time. But we wanted to give you some of that background so that, you know, we can help inform your decision making of what does the work plan of this committee really look like. So that is, I think that's our last slide, right, Scott? Yes. Our Lego. There's Scott right there. So we will kind of end the conversation there from our side, but open it up to you. And I'm not sure, Kim, if you had anything else that you wanted to add about work plan or questions.
No, I think I hope that we've given the committee a good flavor for some of the initiatives that we're involved in. And now I think we're really looking to hear from all of you. Did you know about these things? Do they resonate with you? Do you think that there's other ideas or directions that you'd like to explore? Or are there things that Savannah or Scott mentioned that you'd like more information about?
Well, just thanks, Savannah and Scott, for all that information. There's a lot of work gone into what you guys have prepared, and I think there's a lot of good ideas, lots of projects on the go. So yeah, if at any time you do need input, I would certainly approach this committee, see if we can assist in any way, and that's great. Are there any comments there from the group? Brenda, you had your hand up first.
All right, I was really interested to see that abattoir development is huge on the list. I'd say that every farm organization, ecological, conventional, whatnot, really wants to see that happen, especially after all of our abattoir backlogs. We just finished moving all our lambs out 2 months later than normal, and we booked as early as we could. So yes, definitely want to say that I've heard that from every level of farming. I'm sure Lori is nodding her head too. She's seen a lot of that. I'm also really interested in the planning ideas of looking into agriminiums and residential farm cooperatives. That's definitely something that would, I think, really maybe help a lot of younger or newer people get into farming. So kudos on actually bringing those ideas up and having them in a plan at all. So I'm really interested to hear how some of the stuff will develop, or even if people are approaching you, what kinds of requests are being made to sort of further start new farms in Grey County.
Excellent, good points. Well, Shirley, you wanted to add something to that?
Thank you, John. And yeah, first of all, just to say how much I appreciate the presentations and how exciting it is to see all the work that's already going on in Grey in relation to agriculture. An issue that's come to our council more than once is discussion, almost debate really, as we look at growth and development coming into our municipality as it relates to taking farm land out of production. And I'm just wondering if that would be a topic to consider in this group of how we really kind of approach that. And I know there's all kinds of guidelines within our official plans and so on, but as the debate comes to us and we look at whether or not, you know, where's the real advantage, whether to keep that land in farm production or whether to pull it out for development, it's just something I'm looking forward to discussing in this group.
Great. I saw a few other hands up. No, I think we answered some of the questions. Great. All right.
While we're waiting, Mr. Chair, just so the committee knows, Warden Hicks has joined us. He joined us partway through the presentation. So I just wanted to let the committee know that he had joined us. So, and I think just to round out this discussion, it is a lot of information. We will absolutely be posting Savannah and Scott's presentation, and you will get a link to the website there. It is a lot of information, and we'll continue to add the work plan development onto the agenda so that you have some time to consider what you've heard today and think about some new ideas, things that may be missing or things that you've heard in the community. And we'll continue to add that to the agendas as they go through so that more discussion can be had.
All right, thank you, Heather. Mr. Hicks, would you like to address the committee?
Well, thank you. I'm just sort of catching my bearings, Mr. I'm gathering you're the chair.
I guess I am, yeah.
There's been the election of a chair, and who's the vice chair?
Councillor Robinson.
Councillor Robinson.
I am Warden Hicks.
Okay, very good. So yes, I am sorry I had to be here. I keep telling people that my my work interferes with my political career, but I do have some another life. So I had a mediation that I had to attend, unfortunately. So I'm sorry I wasn't here on time, but I am happy to be here. Actually, Mr. Chairman, if I might, I want to quickly address a rumor that was brought to my attention. The rumor is for some people in the farm community that you have a warden that's not concerned about farmers, or that is anti-farming. That I got to tell you, that hurts my soul here, because it just is not true. Nothing could be further from the truth. I want people at this committee to know, and I want you to address that rumor if you hear it. I graduated from Stainer Collegiate, lived just across the border on the Simcoe side on a dairy farm, big operation. We milked at 4 a.m. and we milked at 2 p.m. every day. I understand the farm life. I understand what it's like to get that call to say you got to round up the cows at 1 a.m. in the morning because they're busy on Highway 26, and you get the snowmobiles and the horses out. And I get that farmers work really. It really hurts me, to be honest, to hear that such a rumor would be out there. You have in me a warden that is an ally, and I will be with you 100% of the way. Regardless of how I may vote on individual issues, do not interpret that to mean that I am anti-farming or that I'm not with you. In fact, you have someone who understands more than you might believe. So I'm really looking forward to the work of this committee. I expressed in my inaugural speech that I am so excited to get to that Gather campaign. As I was watching the pictures and during the presentation, and I saw the carrots and the beautiful colors and the yumminess, I think people are urging for opportunities to gather, and particularly around food. So again, I don't want to go on for too long, Mr. Chairman, but know that you have in me a person that's excited to work with this group, that's excited to work with the agricultural community. There's lots that we can do. You are important to Grey County, and in fact, reach out to me, and I will be reaching out to leaders in the ag community as well, because now that I hear this rumor, I especially want to make a point of doing that. But don't hesitate to reach out to me, and you might be pleasantly surprised with the response. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you, Warden Hicks, and there's quite a few people with dairy experience on this committee, so we'll look forward to your input on all matters related to agriculture. Where do we leave off? Are we ready for the agricultural survey? I see it's on the agenda.
Yes, I think Hib is going to take that one.
All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Hiba Hussein. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a planner with the Grey County. I've had the privilege to work on the Grey County Climate Change Action Plan over the last 2 years. For members on this committee that aren't aware, Grey County is working on developing a climate change action plan. This plan will focus on addressing our emissions across our community and at the corporate level, and looking at ways we can work on reducing our emissions. So we're in the process of developing targets to reduce our emissions by 2030 and 2050. We're in the process of developing strategies for the themes that we've created in our plan. And one area of our plan is the community section of the plan, and part of one of the key 6 themes of that plan is the agricultural section. We've made agriculture a key theme in our climate change action plan, understanding that agriculture is one of the biggest sectors in Grey County, and it affects almost every aspect of our community. So we knew that we needed to focus on the ag sector. We needed to provide resources to the ag sector and really understand their perspectives on climate change. And we hope that we've done that that, and we hope to continue to do that. As part of our engagement with the ag community, in August of 2020, we released an agricultural survey. This was in coordination with our general survey that we released to the public. And that the general survey was more looking at just overall thoughts and ideas within our community across Gray around climate change and what they hope to see. But we felt that we needed to focus, we needed to have a more targeted survey, just really understanding the needs of the ag community. So we released this survey. It was open for about a month, and we heard a good amount of feedback. About 40 people responded to this survey. And I'm not going to take too much time going through the details of the results of the survey. I just kind of want to highlight 3 areas of that survey. Majority of the respondents were concerned or very concerned around the impacts of climate change on their farm. And a majority of them were familiar with sustainability and resiliency practices. So 92% of respondents in the ag community, or respondents of the survey, were aware of the various sustainability practices that exist and that are promoted from a climate sustainability perspective. One of the challenges that were cited in the survey was that sustainability cost, funding, regulatory red tape, and income-related challenges were some of the higher related challenges that were identified in the survey for farm community to adopt some of these sustainability practices. One of the other engagement tools that I have done over the last 4 months is also reached out to members of the ag community to do interviews and have conversations with members of the ag community. And really, the cost and the funding opportunity is identified as one of the bigger challenges of implementing sustainability practices. So we, as part of our plan, we're really looking into connecting farm communities who are interested in implementing these sustainability practices to various different funding sources that exist, but also looking to work with partners that have locally, such as Alice, that have funding opportunities available, and really connecting them to those. Some of the resources and supports that were identified include better funding mechanisms, as I've mentioned, better access to knowledge and expert advice. So this could include climate change, someone who's an expert on climate change who can provide resources and expert advice on how to implement some of these practices on farms. And then more pilot and demonstration projects, which we're looking to see if there are highlighting communities or farmers that are already doing some of these practices and highlighting them as experts and as demonstration projects. From my conversations, I've heard various people mention that the farm community has been practicing sustainable practices over several decades, and there are a lot of champions within our community already for this work. So we need to work on highlighting those members and really showcasing that this work can be done and that it has been done, and how we can and really highlighting that. So those were some of the areas that we've identified. The consultant towards the end of the survey result report has indicated some actions that they think is valuable to the climate change action plan. And majority of these actions include really what I've already mentioned, which is education, advocacy, really kind of providing supports to the ag community, helping them understand various funding sources or various opportunities that exist in adopting sustainability practices. So really helping them learn about the importance of climate change and taking on this work. We are in the process of currently developing our ag strategies. We have a draft set of ag strategies that we're looking to take to the climate change task force in the new year, and then get their feedback on that. But I would be happy if people are interested in this committee to bring those set of strategies to this community as well and get some feedback from this group as well. But I'm happy to take any questions. That was just a quick brief overview of of that survey. Thank you.
Let's not forget that mute button. Thank you, Hiba. There's lots of good information in there. If you do get a chance to look at that, the results of the survey, I definitely recommend it. Any questions for Hiba at this time? Christine has a question.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hiba, excellent work on this. I'm a data person, so this really speaks to me. So thank you very, very much. I was wondering if there was any dialogue with regard to what we're experiencing now with regard to environmental conditions in Grey Bruce County and how that applies to maybe best practices for farming. Was that any dialogue that maybe was incorporated into this data?
The data that we primarily used also for, we looked at Philly's work in the AgriFood strategic plan and then the data presented in the AgriFood BRE. And then we also looked at just kind of agricultural emissions from livestock across the county, but there hasn't been, from the conversations that I've had with ag groups, there hasn't been really a strategic focus on farming practices. It's more looking at kind of what is currently happening and what we can do, what is needed from a sustainability perspective in the future.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Hiba. This is a fantastic document, and I could tell a lot of work has gone into it. Thanks.
Were there any more questions at this time for? Oh,
I see Councillor Soever had his hand up, and I also see Brenda.
All right, Brenda, you go first.
I think Councillor Soever was first.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so I just wanted to see how much discussion maybe Hiba, your department was having with our various conservation authorities, because I am a member of the Alice PAC and we sit with them on there. And so we talk a lot about mitigation for, well, best practices, best management practices of farms, a lot to do with water quality, a lot to do with keeping cattle out of the water, which is also important for tourism. So I just wanted to just get a feel for, you know, making sure that there's a lot of two-way communication with our existing conservation authorities, because they're hugely, I mean, they're just found some expertise on the subject.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more. I think the Conservation Authority is going to be critical, not just in the ag section of our plan, but almost every other section of our plan. We've been working with our two major conservation authorities, especially Grey Sauble Conservation Authority, right from the beginning of this plan. So they've been part of one of our stakeholders that have been part of our external working group right from the beginning of the development of this plan. So we've had their input really from the data collection stage of this plan. So they've been very helpful in providing us information from that stage. We've recently, SCCA, they've had some staff capacity issues in the past. So they've recently joined our external working group as well. But I've been meeting with Joanne Harbinson at SPCA and getting her input. And I've had one-on-one conversations with her on our plan just to kind of understand, you know, kind of from what their perspective they'd like to see in this plan. We've also held workshops with our with Conservation Authority where SCCA and Grey Sauble were present. So I think from our two major conservation authorities, we've had a lot of input.
All right, Councillor Sullivan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of things. It's a great report. I am a little distressed, as I often am in the town of Blue Mountains too, with there's only 38 people who responded, and certainly maybe now that we have an agricultural advisory committee, we can all work to make sure that when there are surveys that we get a better response, because that's our problem as well here. You put out a survey, then you take the input, you do a lot of work, and then when you come up with a plan, then all of a sudden there's all these members of the community that now want to comment, and you know, so it gets things running around in a big circle. So I want to thank you for your work. I know it's a little frustrating sometimes when the numbers don't come in the way you'd like. So that's, but it's a great job you're doing. And the other thing, you know, in terms of climate change, as our agricultural practices are changing and we're going like the high density apple trees, they have shallower roots than most of the old trees. So they're far less resistant to periods of even short droughts, and the irrigation is required. And have we looked at, you know, the climate change and how it might affect our ability to grow some of these crops because of the, you know, without, you know, and then how do we mitigate that? I know our farmers are actually planning a water pipeline to be able to augment the water in their ponds, because these trees, if they have 2 weeks of no rain, then the crop is in danger. So are we looking at climate projections and how they might affect things?
Yeah, to answer your first question, the 38 was definitely something we were hoping for more engagement on that survey. So when we realized the number, we decided to go out and interview and reach out to our ag community. So we've been working with, we've done interviews and had meetings with Gray Ag Services, Federation of Agriculture, Alice, to really supplement some of the information gaps that we felt were not available through the survey. So that was one of the ways we tried to kind of bolster our knowledge. But the other thing I want to say, maybe that's, you know, a challenge, is that we've implemented this survey in August, where it's not the best timing for our ag community. So that is something to consider if we decide to do something of this sort again. But we have definitely tried to engage further through one-on-one interviews with the ag community to kind of supplement some of the information in this that's presented in this survey. In terms of looking specifically at trees and orchards, and we haven't identified that in the plan, but I appreciate you bringing that up, and that's something we can look further as we develop this plan, but that's not something we have done currently.
All right, thank you, Iba. Any questions for the group?
Amy.
Amy.
Yes.
Go ahead, Amy.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the report. It's really exciting to see the county talking about this type of stuff related to agriculture. I guess I have a question or / idea about, I see one of the recommendations about connecting with current funding programs and as a way for our Gray County farmers to sort of improve or bring on new best practices. And some of the challenges, at least from my perspective with those funding programs, is that they're fairly costly. Like, a lot of them are cost share. So upfront, the farmer has to be able to afford, 65% of the project. So for new farmers and small farmers, that sometimes can be out of reach. And then they're also, because they're funded through federal programming, they're at the whim of the feds, and often those priorities change every 4 years. So for me, I think it would be really neat, and obviously money is always an issue, but if we could think about starting to develop like a local cost share program that aligns with the priorities that you're identifying in these types of reports, that's something that's a little bit more tailored to Gray County farming and the priorities identified here, and they're potentially a little bit more long-term. And then I also see the point of needing support for farmers to be able to apply for these types of programs. And I totally agree. I think in regions where they have, folks on the ground who can be champions of these types of things, you see a strong support for these programs, like Gray Ag Services has done and continues to do. But I think that's going to be key as we address these priorities in our county, is having the folks on the ground to that farmers can call, and they can get the technical support that they need to do the work that they want to do on their farms.
All right, thank you, Amy. Was it Shirley? Did I see your hand up as well?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. And I just wanted to, again, thank Hiba for this report, and to ask if there would be any consideration for looking at specific areas within the county, such as the microclimate that we enjoy here in Meaford, where specific types of grapes and apples are able to be grown that can't be grown in other parts of the county, and thinking that climate change will, I'm guessing, have an impact on the ability to grow those specific crops. So I just wondered if down the road, if that was anything, Hiba, that you might consider looking at.
Yes, I think it's important to consider, microclimates, as you mentioned. We really hope that the county can support local municipalities when they're developing their climate change plan, to really kind of look at some of those, areas that are new or like really important to the municipality. So we will be looking at the areas across the county that are kind of unique and bring a unique perspective to climate change. But we also hope to support local municipalities and as they develop their climate change plans that really then implement some of those targeted solutions to those microclimates and those challenges maybe they might pose.
That would be really appreciated, Hiba. Thank you.
I see Scott's got his hand up. Scott, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess just to build off Hiba's response to Councillor Keaveney, within the work plan for the current climate change action plan, some of that primary research on growing conditions and sort of adaptations throughout climate change might not be in the primary work plan, but maybe some education will come through one of the recommendations. One of the other I'd put out there is we often get invitations to participate with educational institutions like the University of Guelph, and quite often they're looking for projects in terms of research. And I think, having the strong agricultural basis that Guelph does, that might be something that we could suggest in the future to some of these organizations. And I know there's already some research coming out of Guelph that's looking at, what parts of Ontario, Canada, and the world are going to, in one way, benefit from maybe increased heat units that we didn't have before. Then similarly, in what ways are we at risk due to more variable weather? So I think your point is a very good one. And I think Councillor Soever raised some similar points. So it's certainly something that staff will keep in mind as we look to work with groups like the University of Guelph in the future, in terms of maybe we can involve them in some of this targeted research in that regard.
All right, thank you, Scott. Any more comments, questions, suggestions?
Mr. Chair?
Robinson? Yeah.
Go ahead, Christine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm really enjoying the discussion, and I'm excited to hear of the potential that working with university students and coming up with some really great solutions that will be most interesting. So I was wondering, I was looking through, of course, the Grey County Climate Change Action Plan, and under, on page 8, section 5, challenges and solutions. And the first sentence really identifies the challenges, whether it's implementing agricultural sustainability, the cost of that, the funding, regulatory red tape, etc. So I was linking that with a potential work plan item that would look at keeping a Grey County agricultural lens on any upcoming regulations or legislation, and how our group here could provide comment back to the province on any of that pending legislation that could come forward. And that would also go with the mission or purpose, where we are acting as a voice for agricultural, the agricultural community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any more questions, comments for Hiba at this time? I think we covered them all. Excellent. Next on the agenda, we have other business. That's correct, I guess. Was there?
I think Scott's going to take this one.
Scott's going to take it. Go ahead, Scott.
Thank you. Just very briefly, I mentioned this in the presentation that Savannah and I did, but the county is looking at changes to our forest management bylaw, and we're working closely with our member municipalities, and we're actually working with the town of Blue Mountains at the moment to hopefully schedule most likely an online open house sometime. We're tentatively looking at February here to start to get feedback on that bylaw, as well as the town zone bylaw proposal in that regard. So we wanted to put this out there for information, and once we have those dates, we'd love to be able to reach out to this group to help spread the word. And then as we look to get a draft bylaw in the future, maybe it comes back before this table to get your feedback on that. And as Councillor Severance pointed out, sometimes the challenges come in terms of engaging the farm sector who are already very busy, and how do we make it convenient for them to engage without adding a lot of work to their work plan in that regard. So it's more or less a heads up for now, but certainly be happy to take any feedback or questions moving forward.
All right, thank you, Scott.
I do see Councillor Severance has his hand up.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Certainly, we're happy to be working with the county on this initiative. We did float our own bylaw before COVID hit. There was a lot of public reaction. The issues are complicated. We were mainly targeting developers and builders from cutting down trees when they're in tree preservation zones and stuff. But the jurisdiction is very complicated because county has jurisdiction over the woodlots. We have Niagara Escarpment Commission on Niagara Escarpment lands, and then we have the town on the others. And the intent is not to impact any farm practices, so those were excluded. But in spite of that, there was a lot of angst and misinformation out there. So I'm happy that we're now moving forward, and certainly the goal is not to have any impact on any farm practices.
All right, thank you, Councillor. Did we get everybody?
I think so.
Excellent. Next on the agenda, we have reference items.
So I can speak to the next two if you'd like, Mr. Chair. Reference items is there in case there are any background information. And when Tara sends out the agenda, those include some links to any documents that might be for your information, specifically related to perhaps reports that are on an upcoming agenda. So we don't have any at this point in time. As far as next meeting dates, we will work with the group. Tara will work with some dates, look at some dates, and send those ideas out to the group. And we will determine a next meeting date. It will likely be in the early spring of 2021, which seems hard to believe already, but she will work with the group to determine a date that meets everyone's needs and availability.
Excellent, thank you, Heather. I guess this is the end of our first meeting, is it?
It is. You'll just look for a mover in a second.
That's right. So
Yes.
we'd like, I guess, a motion to adjourn. Can I have a mover?
Also move.
I think John moved, and we have a seconder with Shirley. I guess we're calling.
Just ask if everyone's in favor, and
Oh, yeah, sorry.
everyone is in favor of adjournment.
So everybody's smiling there, so I kind of assumed everybody's in favor. So, well, at this time, I'd like to thank everybody for putting your input in the meeting, and everybody attending. And I wish everybody a happy, healthy Christmas season, and stay safe, and hope to see you all again in the new year. Thank you.
Good job chairing, John. Well done.
Thank you. Well done.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thanks,
Everybody.